It is time for another 1-minute market update where we talk about the two things that you should care about most as a homeowner. How much is my home worth today compared to what it was yesterday, and how long would it take to sell? Of course, we are in October now, meaning we are looking at stats from September. It's probably no great surprise that the price slump has continued. If you pay any attention to the real estate market at all, you've probably seen listings continuing to drop the prices. In the greater Vancouver area, we are getting very, very close to the lows that we saw right after COVID, which happened right at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. And in the Fraser Valley, we've actually just crossed over that threshold. The prices today are lower than what they were after the COVID crash. So as we go through the stats today, basically, again, across the board, they're pretty negative, which should be no great surprise to anybody. Anyway, let's jump into the numbers. Starting off with HPI price on detached homes in Burnaby, you are down 0.9% from last month and down 3.1% from this time last year. New West, you're down 4.7% from last month and down 4.9% from last year. Big drop. Coquitlam, you're down, well, you're basically net equal with last month, down just a tiny, tiny little bit, and you're down 5.2% from last year. Port Moody, you're down 0.7% from last month and down 6.2% from last year. Port Coquitlam, you're up just a little bit, 0.4% from last month, but down 4% from last year. Maple Ridge, again, down just a little bit, 0.1% from last month, but down 2.7% from last year. And finally, Pitt Meadows, a teeny tiny little increase, 0.2% from last month, but down 2.4% from last year. Okay, jumping into townhouses now. Burnaby, you are down 0.2% from last month and down 0.3% from last year. New West, you're up a little bit, 0.5% from last month, but down 3% from last year. Coquitlam, you're down 3.2% from last month and down 1.8% from last year. Port Moody, down 1.2% from last month and down 3.5% from last year. Port Coquitlam, you are down 0.4% from last month, but you're up 1.5% from last year, so little win there for Port Coquitlam. Maple Ridge, you are down 2.1% from last month and down 3.3% from last year. And finally, Pitt Meadows, you are down 1.5% from last month. And a teeny tiny win, you are up 0.1% from last year. If these updates are helpful to you, keeping an eye on what's going on with your largest asset, or you're somebody who is looking to get into the market, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe as well so you don't miss anything. And better yet, if you know somebody in your life that might also benefit from these kinds of stats, updates, and just general real estate news, make sure you forward this along, share it with them, because of course that helps us grow our channel. All right, into the condo market now. Burnaby, you are down 0.2% from last month and down 4% from last year. New West, you are down 0.6% from last month and down 6.3% from last year. Big loss in New West. Coquitlam, you're down 1.7% from last month and down 4.8% from last year. Port Moody, you are down 1.7% from last month and another big loss, down 6.2% from last year. Port Coquitlam, you are down 1.9% from last month and down 5.5% from last year. Maple Ridge, you are up a teeny tiny win, 0.1% from last month, but down 5.8% from last year. And Pitt Meadows, you are down 0.4% from last month and another big loss, down 5.7% from last year. You might be asking yourself, if you're somebody who's thinking about maybe making a purchase, well, if you listen to the past couple of months of updates, the numbers have been going down. They've been going down pretty steadily. So why in the hell would I buy a home when prices are continuing to drop? Well, that's a great question, and you really should be asking yourself what your timeline is. Because if you're thinking to buy a home and stay in it for a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, yeah, it might actually not make sense for you to purchase. You might just be better off renting for the time being and seeing where the market ends up. And in the meantime, keep building up a down payment, keep working on, getting a raise at work or making more money, making more income, that kind of thing, to give yourself a better financial situation and more stability for, whenever the time is right for you. But if you're somebody who's looking at buying and you're holding on to this for the long term, this is the conversation that we're having with a lot of our clients. People who are upsizing from condos to townhouses, townhouses to houses, or who are buying their first home. With the fact that prices have come down, it is way easier to make that jump into homeownership as long as you have a long enough time horizon in front of you. If you're going to hold on to this for 5 years or more, you're probably in pretty good shape because, again, we know that the market is cyclical. It's on its way down right now, but we don't know where the bottom is. And we won't know that until after we've passed it. And at some point, as long as you are confident in the Lower Mainland and in Vancouver as a market and confident that people will keep wanting to live here and keep wanting to work here and ultimately keep wanting to buy houses here, well, you're still probably making a pretty good investment. And at the end of the day, you have to live somewhere. And if it's a difference of paying rent or paying a mortgage, hell, I'd rather pay myself and pay that mortgage any day than pay rent if I could. Okay, jumping into days on market now, or in other words, how long homes are taking to sell on average. In Burnaby, you're up to 30 days on market. New West, you're up to 29 days. Coquitlam, you're up to 25. Port Moody, you're up to 32 days. Port Coquitlam, you're up to 26 days. Maple Ridge, you are up to 40 days on average. And somehow the big winner, Pitt Meadows, you are up, well, still up, but you are sitting at 19 days on average. So pretty steady across the board, other than for whatever reason, Pitt Meadows kind of being an outlier where things are moving a little bit more quickly. But all in all, things are taking about a month or thereabouts from the day that they list to the day that they get an accepted offer. If you have questions about the real estate market, or you're maybe thinking about how you could make a move with what's going on today, there is a link in the description below. You can book a time to chat with us. We'll happily go over things with you, answer any questions that you may have, and we absolutely promise to not be salesy in the conversation. It's not our job to convince people to buy or sell, it's just our jobs to help them when they are ready to do so. Anyway, I'm Angelo with the Atlas Group. I'll see you in the next one.